we're now going into, how do I want to put this, Clint? Okay, who can beat Alabama in the SEC? I mean, let's just put it out there, right? Who can beat Alabama? Because let's face it, it's the Death Star. They've locked in on your planet, and they're just going to push the button and watch things go boom. Every single year we get into that. And so every time we want to count them out, we can't count them out. They count themselves back in because they had the veto button. It's weird. It's like they're growing players in some genetic laboratory on Alabama's campus that we don't know about in the basement. So let's just kind of go through this. SEC projected wins of the year and kind of where we're at with this, because I think the biggest thing is that there's a big skew. And so we're going to go through these and we can kind of go back and forth about where we see these win totals being for regular season. This is not including, totality, but, Bama's a clear-cut winner, right? 11 and a half games is what their ceiling is, because I guess they're just expecting them to possibly have a hiccup at some season with Bryce Young at quarterback. Texas A&M, this is a surprise, in the West, only projected to have 9.5 wins this year. Thought is that about right? Are you thinking maybe they should be more in the 10 range? What are your thoughts about it?
Look, I would take the over on that bet. If you look at their schedule, I would take the over on that bet. But I think A&M is probably being a little overhyped right now. I mean, they had a really good season last year. There's no doubt about that. But as we talked about earlier, man, you lose a 4-year starter, you lose 4 offensive linemen. Man, that is an absolute game changer, and you replace it with a young quarterback with no experience. I think that's going to be a hurdle. And I think this, Max, I think the days of being really good on defense, I think A&M is going to be really good on defense, like nationally, not just in our conference, but nationally. The days of just being really good on defense and being able to ride your defense to what we're talking about, an SEC title or even a championship, I think them days are over. And I think Nick Saban acknowledged that about 5 or 6 years ago when he went full out spread from bully ball to spread and started spinning it all over the park. I think that's when the game really changed to where everybody woke up and said, hey, man, you got to be really good on defense, but you better be able to score some points or you're going to have a problem 2 or 3 games throughout a season. And so I think that's where A&M is right now. I would go 10 wins. But I've seen some people talking about 12-0 and winning the West. And of course, in my neck of the woods, there's a lot of Aggie fans and they're excited about it. I don't know that I'm ready to get on that train, brother. Four offensive linemen, new quarterback. That's a lot of pressure on that defense to win ball games, particularly early in the season. I don't know about that.
Well, and you're in the West. So just think about Alabama goes undefeated in the West. LSU on a fluke year, right? The Joe Burrow year was phenomenal. They go undefeated, but they also had to go into Alabama and take that victory from them, right? And they had some help. It's such a monumental task for any team in the West. So I think we take it a little bit for granted because Nick Saban does it more often than not. But Nick Saban also has those Ole Miss losses, right? Hugh Freeze days where he couldn't beat Hugh Freeze for 2 years. So that doesn't happen. Yes, Gus Malzahn had a couple of wins in the Iron Bowl, right? But they're too few and far between where a team bests Alabama. And for Texas A&M, I mean, just looking at their schedule, yes, you have some fluff ones early on, but I don't know if Colorado is going to be an easy one for them to go into Boulder and try and win that one.
Yeah.
You still have Alabama on the roster. You still have LSU. You have to go to Death Valley at the end of the year. And let's face it, LSU, last game of the season, my Gators didn't fare so well. So will they mentally be in it by that point to do it? So I think 10 is fair. I like the over, like you said, slightly, but I think it is a lot to ask, and especially with a young new quarterback in that system. And like you said, replacing 4 offensive linemen is a monumental task. I work for the Steelers, so I see Dan Moore Jr., and Dan Moore has looked great as a freshman. I'm like, that's why Kellen Mond had so much success. He had that guy blocking his blind side. I don't know about Jameer Johnson. So it's going to be a big task. for them. And the next team that I think that they would have the rival to as far as being second best in the West, I think is LSU, and they're slated right behind them at 8.5 wins.